3 years ago, I set out to construct the most powerful nootropic stack for focus, motivation, and sheer cognitive horsepower. I logged hundreds of hours, sampled endless amounts of cognitive performance chemicals, and ran beta tests with soldiers from the United States Army. And after massive experimentation and ruthless trial and error, my work had finally paid off. I found what I was looking for.
When you ascend to a higher level of functioning, you don't want to go back. And I think that's why performance optimization is particularly addicting. Whether you start exercising and you love how it makes you start meditating and you love how you can control your anxiety response a lot better, you start trying to optimize your sleep and you love how your brain functions throughout the day, or you're taking nootropics and you like how you've ascended to this entirely new level of brain functionality. And you never want to go back. For most folks, it's like you recognize the degree of functionality you can achieve by optimizing brain function, and you're like, this is insane. Now, all these thoughts of like, you have a stagnant intelligence, or there's no such thing as sort of an increasing intelligence over time, right? It's just sort of some baseline set point. Kind of start to go away and kind of start to get a little murky a little bit, right? Because if you can improve brain performance and go back and take an IQ test, well, certainly your brain's gonna be firing quicker, neurons are gonna fire quicker, you're gonna be more responsive. Your brain's neurons are gonna be more responsive to signals that you're trying to send when you're looking at the equation on the IQ test that has 7 letters and it's like all jumbled and it's like, spell a country out of these 7 letters that are disorganized, and you've got to quick figure that out to do it in the time frame, sort of determined by the IQ test. And hosts of other things. We tried to build a stack that was like that. We asked all of our beta testers, what do you want in a nootropic stack? And they, hands down, they said stimulatory and functional. So they wanted something that's stimulatory, but also increases verbal fluency, working memory, mental energy, these sorts of things. And basically they said a natural form of modafinil. So that's what we did with the Cortex stack. We hunted everywhere for a whole bunch of different compounds. I sourced 100+ compounds in. And it turned out the stack that I had been using, that I had pretty much perfected but need a little more work for getting my brain to perform incredibly well while running a business 18 hours a day, was effectively the stack that we built into a commercial stack and started selling everywhere around the country. I was giving this to my friends, other entrepreneur friends, and they're like, dude, this is the best things to slice bread when it comes to productivity and all the stuff I got to do with my brain. So secure a bottle of Cortex at the livecortex.com website. Again, livecortex.com. This is for functional verbal fluency, functional working memory, functional mental energy, and the capacity to work. You kind of just get an inclination and a honing in to want to work when you take Cortex if you respond well to it. Most folks do. livecortex.com to secure a bottle of what's being called the only pre-made nootropic stack that's actually noticeable, and that works. We did a video recently on trying to get nootropics to work better for you. Why aren't they working? Here's why. It's because of interactions. In a lot of cases, I get emails from people who are like taking a particular nootropic stack and they're like, why isn't this working for me? I don't know why. And then I tell them, I ask them to give me a list of what other things they might be taking, and boom, I've got things that I know are interacting with those compounds based on the mechanisms of those compounds. And then also theories that, even though there might not be published science about one thing or the other, it's like pretty plausible that this one thing could be messing with this one thing here. And not necessarily exclusively based on neurotransmitter or neurochemical interactions, but just sort of based on the fact that one of them is a stimulant and the other one, is the opposite. And so, one's going to negate the effects of the other in sort of typical common sense with most compounds. So alongside that, though, there are more reasons. We got into B vitamins and cofactors as one in another video. I think it's called like making nootropics work better for you, cofactors or something to that effect. But there's more. And this guy, Ryan KRAMMES, who is a guy who's been ruthlessly, faithfully with us from the beginning. So dude, appreciate you, man. From the beginning. I don't forget that stuff, and I won't forget it forever. Said on our last video where we posted about this, look, minerals are critically important for me, and I got to realize benefits from nootropics, more benefits, and had nootropics that weren't working functionally or weren't working the best when I started taking minerals. So I had not looked into this before, but in researching it, it turns out that magnesium and calcium seem to be particularly important. So here's the deal. Magnesium tries to limit your release of acetylcholine. It effectively tries to conserve it. Calcium does effectively the opposite. So if you've got this excess in calcium, it's actually facilitating the excitatory nature of the acetylcholine in the neurons. If you've got a balance of the both of them, it's probably just functioning normally and you can function normally. But I would say if you're not taking calcium and you've got low calcium levels at the time that you were taking the nootropic, or perhaps you just need to take calcium with the nootropic, but if you're not and it's not functioning the way that it's supposed to, then calcium is directly responsible for facilitating the release and the usage and thus the prominence of acetylcholine. So this is probably why this KRAMMES guy got some of the nootropics to work, taking calcium and looking at minerals. If you aren't taking a bunch of calcium, or if you don't have a bunch of, if your like calcium to magnesium ratio is higher at that particular point, it's sort of weird, right? I mean, the science says that magnesium tries to control the release of acetylcholine; it might inhibit it. But I think it's plausible to think that also magnesium might even help to get benefits from nootropics that facilitate acetylcholine functioning, because it regulates acetylcholine. It tries to conserve it and it regulates it. To me, it seems pretty clear for some folks, if none of the other stuff that we talked about, like B vitamins, are helping, interactions that you might identify are helping with the identification or the noticing of a particularly cholinergic nootropic, all the racetams, Noopept, potentially PRL8-53, anything else that's that's cholinergic, then you might want to look at calcium and magnesium, getting them in balance. I would say start with. And then if you're still not getting results with cholinergic compounds, then I would say try taking more calcium. And I'd stick with something like calcium carbonate. The other thing that is demonstratively provable is, and this is something that I'd look into to the extent that I did today in trying to research this and figure this out to help folks that are asking me this question, is that thiamine, vitamin B1, low levels of thiamine inhibit acetylcholine release, period. So that's one thing to look at. We've talked about B5 because B5 helps in the synthesis of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. But thiamine, your brain has a hard time releasing it and having it functioning correctly if you've got thiamine deficiency. So basically the takeaways are this. Balance your magnesium and calcium by taking supplements. If you're not responding well to cholinergic nootropics that work on the acetylcholine system in some way. If that doesn't work for you, you might want to consider upping the dosage of calcium, because calcium makes the excitatory nature of acetylcholine happen, right? Calcium is effectively neurochemically an excitatory chemical. If neither of those things work, maybe take a complex B vitamin. But either way, think specifically about B1. If you don't have enough B1, you're not going to release acetylcholine the right way. If you take this advice and apply it to your next few iterations of experimenting with nootropics, and you've tried everything so far and you're not responding to cholinergics, I have a feeling you'll respond this time around when you get this balance right. Thanks for watching.